This is Glenn Hughes, the voice of rock.
Hey everybody, this is Pat Torpy from Mr. Big.
And you're listening to Music Mania.
Good evening! Welcome to our show!
I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Your mama's alright, your daddy's alright, but just seem a little bit weak.
Scream for me, Brazil! Scream for me, Brazil!
So let's rock and roll all night, the party every day!
In the words of AC/DC, we roll tonight to the guitar bite. And for those about to rock, I salute you.
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here is your host, Clint Switzer.
What a pleasure it is to be joining you once again here on the Music Mania podcast. I am Clint Switzer, your host, and I tell you, it's great to have you guys joining me as always. MusicManiaPodcast.com, that is the website. That's where you can check out everything we do. I think this is our 162nd show for the Music Mania podcast, which is so exciting. All the great guests that we've had on over the years. I mean, I think back to it. The fact that this started basically just sending out tweets, sending out messages on Facebook to anybody that I could to really get on this show, to start telling stories and to start getting the perspective of some of the artists that I admire the most. And I remember it started back with Mike Tramp from White Lion, Ryan Roxie from Alice Cooper's band. Those are the two artists that I remember coming in contact with and agreeing to do an interview with someone that had no track record. And it's because of that we've been able to bring you these 162 episodes for free. Of course, we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. And so anywhere you get your podcast, you can check us out. We always appreciate you subscribing. It helps us continue to grow this and continue to get great guests. And in the meantime, you know, the fact that we've been able to have people on the show like Joey Elliott from Def Leppard, like Ted Nugent, like Matthias Jabs from Scorpions, and on again. I mean, this has just been tremendous. And the interviews, that's the staple of this show. This podcast has always been about not only me sharing the love for the music that I admire the most, and it kind of runs the gambit. This show is based around very, for the most part, you're going to get a lot of 80s rock on here. I'm just going to be honest. You've heard us interview people like Tom Kiefer from Cinderella, Juan Crozier from Rat. That's kind of the bands that really are the staple of what the Music Mania podcast is, because I am so rooted in that, and in the Def Leppards and Motley Crues and Kisses of the world, which, by the way, I'm going to get ready to see Kiss again on this farewell tour that's never ending, which is great because I'm going to catch them at least a few more times, I think. But we've interviewed Tommy James from Tommy James and the Shondells. Lisa Loeb's been on this show. We really like to run the gamut. We've had great blues artists on this show, like Joe Louis Walker. Today, the ultimate boogie blues musician, it is George Thorogood. Yes, George Thorogood and the Destroyers. They're going to be here in Kansas City March 1st at the Uptown Theater. Go to georgethorogood.com. You can get tickets to that show right now. Of course, George Thorogood's no-nonsense, blues-based, good-time rock music is a flavor people love all over the world. He's best known for perennial hard-rocking hits like Bad to the Bone, I Drink Alone, Move It On Over, and of course, One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer, and who could forget Born to Be Bad. George Thorogood and the Destroyers have sold more than 15 million albums worldwide and have performed more than 8,000 live shows to date and counting. In fact, the Good to Be Bad tour continues onward into February 2020 with dates already scheduled in Australia and New Zealand. He has a full slate of shows this summer, and of course, this spring, out on the road, March 1st, like I said, we'll be here in Kansas City, where I am. Cannot wait to see this. You talk about an artist and a band, the Destroyers, and an artist in George Thorogood that just demands respect. Never compromising, unwavering, and not only that, one of the most famous Delawareans of all time, right up there with Ryan Phillippe and Elizabeth Shue. So we're going to talk to him about that. I'll tell you what, the interview I did with George, I didn't have much time to prepare for, to be honest. I sent out the request. I knew the show was coming up here in Kansas City, and his publicist basically said, hey, we can get you in tomorrow if you can do it short notice. I said, absolutely. And, what I failed to really realize is that George Thorogood is not your average interview. He's not someone that you just come on and ask general questions to. Hey, are you excited to play here? Are you excited to go there? I had to kind of generalize my questions a little bit because, not having, usually I have a week or two to prepare for an interview and to do all the research. And of course, knowing George's career pretty well, I thought I could just dive right in and make that happen. But I'll tell you what, George holds the interviewer accountable, and I love it. You're going to hear in this interview, he likes to bring the interviewer into it. He likes to ask questions, and he likes to play devil's advocate. And I love it. This is one of my favorite interviews. George Thorogood. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to meet George. I've seen him live before here in Kansas City at the old Beaumont Club, just a old sweaty rock club where I've seen bands like Testament, Lillian Axe, Jackal, and of course George Thorogood. It was just so many great memories of seeing George Thorogood. I remember, of course, the song Bad to the Bone was just a part of the American lexicon and will be forever. It was like, for a season or two, it was the Kansas City Chiefs, touchdown anthem that would come on when the Chiefs scored a touchdown at Arrowhead Stadium. It was in the movie Problem Child. I remember that for some reason growing up. That was a big movie for me. And so that song especially, and just all the hits that the Destroyers have. We're going to talk about why he ever picked up a guitar, what kind of his interests were growing up, and what sort of forced him into rock stardom. It's going to be, very interesting, and I'm so excited I was able to catch up with George Thorogood. A lot of big interviews still to come. We got Richie Kotzen, former Poison guitarist, coming up here in the coming weeks. Kevin Martin, the singer from Candlebox, also on the docket. So some really big things coming up. I cannot thank you guys enough for continuing to support the show, and really to be able to do this and to be able to do everything that I do is just a dream, because for me, growing up as a fan, this is truly unbelievable. I mean, I never thought that I'd be interviewing my favorite musicians, having them on, having my own podcast. I cover sports as well as part of what I do. So everything about this is truly made possible by you guys. Can't thank you enough. So please hit us up on Twitter at musicmania _show. On Facebook and Instagram, just search Music Mania, and you can follow us on all the medias. And I'll tell you what, before we get to our interview with George Thorogood, got to tell you about our sponsor, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri. Guys, for over 23 years, they've been a staple of the Northland. They've bought, they've sold, they've traded, they've had DVDs, CDs, vinyl, memorabilia, and more. And I tell you what, unfortunately, the party is coming to an end here this May. So get in there at CD Warehouse off Antioch Road in Gladstone today. Tell them Music Mania sent you. And the merchandise, they've got deals, they've got things they're blowing out. The time has come to move on for owner Randy Ringer. So you know what? Let that be an advantage to you. Go in there and check out what they've got. Tell them Music Mania sent you, and there will be a discount, or it's on us. Guys, CD Warehouse, Gladstone, Missouri, a staple of the Northland until May. George, it is so great to have you on, my friend. How's everything going, man?
Can't complain, my friend.
Well, you know what? Just to get this out of the way, I'm here in Kansas City. You're going to be here on March 1st. But you know what? You're going to talk to the only Kansas Cityan right now that would not hold it over your head that the Royals beat the Mets in the 15 World Series. I'm not a Royals fan, so we don't even have to go there. So that's good, at least, right?
What you have to bring that up for?
I was on your side. I was cheering for Syndergaard and the Mets in 15, man. But you know what? You'll have 1986 forever. That is always gonna be there. And we just won a Super Bowl here, so things aren't going too bad in Kansas City. And we're gonna have you here March 1st. So all good things, man.
Well, it's been a long time since we were at the Uptown Theater. I think the first time we did it was around 1980. We've done it several times, so it's kind of a welcome back type of thing. You know what I mean? Oh, well, the Uptown Theater is one of my favorite venues in town. I know you guys have played the Beaumont Club several times. You guys have been around and done it here, but you're really ramping up. I mean, this tour, which kicks off February 28th in Thackerville, Oklahoma. But you guys not only have a string of U.S. dates, but you're going back to the UK for the first time in 7 years. So this is a big tour for you guys. You got to be excited about the U.S. dates, but heading back over across the pond as well. Well, it's all exciting, of course. More a little fun, but you got to. It's a funny thing when people ask an obvious question. They say, "Well, are you looking forward to doing this, George, or is this something you like to do?" Or blah blah blah. I'm thinking, between you and me, Clint, I'm going, well, I'm going back to a place where they pay me a lot of money, where people want me to play my guitar, and people adore me. Okay. How's that sound?
I like it.
Well, it's an obvious thing, because that's the job everybody wants. Even at one time, the President of the United States wanted to be a rock and roll star.
that's the ultimate thing to do, no matter what level of it you do it. So I always get a chuckle out of that, and when people say, "Well, are you looking forward to going?" I say, "Well, of course I am." But like I would, and they said it for me. Okay, that makes it even better.
Well, it's kind of funny because you seem to kind of be, stricken with the idea of stardom from a young age. So you talk about kind of being in that place where you obviously love what you do, 45 years into this and loving what you do, but it started off with maybe some uncertainty about what kind of, did you want to be a rock star? Did you want to be maybe an actor? I saw where you just kind of grew up watching a lot of television and movies, and you wanted to be in something with showbiz, but you weren't sure what. So kind of take us back to that. How did it happen?
Well, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a poet, and I worked at that. And as a kid, I just and then I got serious when I was just before I was a teenager. I wanted to be a comic. That's what appealed to me. I said, well, I watch some of the best comics in the world when I watch TV. I mean, talk about a glow. I saw Jack Benny, George Byrne, Bill Silver, Ann Southern, Eve Arden, Gail Storm, and Jackie Gleason, Ernie Kovacs, who was brilliant. This was my childhood. And I saw these people, and I said, well, this is what I want to do. And then I turned on the TV about 1964, and I turned on the TV on the Ed Sullivan Show. This guy comes up with a microphone, and he's got a guitar shaped like a violin. He's playing it left-handed. He's got this mop haircut, and he goes, "Close your eyes and I'll kiss you." Boom.
Yeah.
The whole world exploded.
Yeah. And absolutely did. That set the scene, of course, for you. But, I mean, your career, which is unbelievable. I mean, you think about the early 80s, and I think about for you what a time that was, from being a supporting act for the Rolling Stones. The hits started coming out, Bad to the Bone hits. Your rigorous touring schedule starts. I think that was in the time you did the 50 for 50 tour in 1981. Just talk about kind of your transition from kind of slugging it out and getting to the early 80s, 81, 82, and really, becoming a part of the American lexicon at that point.
I don't know what I've become, but the whole rock scene and music scene in general, like the world, like the automotive system or anything else, things keep improving. So the world of music kept improving, the venues kept improving, the PAs kept improving, a way of travel, hotels, things like that. So at that time, when people were getting this thing going, the late 60s, early 70s, and the struggles that other bands have, they don't exist now. The world is wide open because there's just so much money in music, and especially rock music, to be made that they had to upscale everything to keep that going, keep that medium going. So we're gonna have to get the best places because three things will never go out of style: music, particularly rock music, beer, and gambling. So you put all those three things together, and you got yourself a formula for something that works. What they really want is rock bands. That's what brings the people in. So that's really come around. It used to be a casino type place, and it would be someone like D. Martin or Bill Stiller working there. It's not that way anymore. They want the rock acts. So that, in a sense, turned the whole industry around.
We'll talk about your working relationship, with Jeff Simon and Billy Blau, your drummer and bassist, since 1973 and 1976, respectively. So many bands and so many artists, that have been around as long as you just don't have those kind of working relationships. Things happen, bands break up. But describe what it's been like working with those guys for over 40 years now.
That's an almost impossible thing to describe that over 40 years. What it's been like, it's like, some days the weather's good, some days the weather is not so good. Some days the weather's fantastic, and some days you don't even feel like rolling out of bed. It's a little more complicated question. How is that? It has, like any other business and business relationships.
like others. But the glue keeps it going is, you know, the love for what we do, the fans that support us. And there's another reason why Billy and Jeff are still with me. Clint. I respect them.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. It would have to mean a lot of things for you as a band. I mean, they're the way they treat you, the way you treat them. I mean, it's got to be mutual respect, right?
Oh no, you're missing the point. I pay well.
Okay, I was going serious there, and yeah.
Well, remember, loyalty is based on finance.
There was a good opportunity for a joke there, and I just totally went serious on you there. And you, yeah, totally understand, and well done there. You know what? So in that vein, I've got to bring this up because in 2012, you were voted one of the 50 most influential Delawareans of the past 50 years. Now, I guess I have to ask, who possibly could unseat you as the most influential Delawarean? Is it Elizabeth Shue, Ryan Phillippe, or Joe Biden? I don't know, but I don't know that I could have anyone but you, number one.
Joe Biden's from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Well, they have, yeah. So, but this is in no way can anybody, I don't think, could unseat you. So, making a top 50 list, is that?
There's probably that's funny because there's probably only 150 people in Delaware anyway.
Well, that's what I mean. That's exactly.
Small state, you know.
It's well, you got Elizabeth Shue, who I will admit one of my favorite actresses of the '80s, up there. So you're neck and neck with her. But I just thought that was kind of funny, seeing that on your resume here, because you know, Delaware is not a state that I know a whole lot about. I remember in Wayne's World he said, "Hi, I'm in Delaware," and that's all he had to say about it. What talk about growing up in Delaware? What is Delaware like? Has anyone ever asked you that one?
Very conservative.
Yeah.
Ultra conservative. There's no Greenwich Village in Delaware. We had to create our own Greenwich Village. There's no, there was no, you know, no Haight-Ashbury or, you know, things like that. As far as Delawareans go, do you know who's the only who's the first person to manage the Philadelphia Phillies for a world championship?
No, I'm trying to think. That was they were in it in 2008, but yet nope, I don't know.
Delaware, Dallas Green.
There you go. See?
That. He should be up there. Randy White was from Delaware, was also MVP in the Super Bowl once. So
yes,
there's other cats up there with higher profiles than mine. And you know, who knows? And you don't know in the world of music. I mean, in the world of movies, that Elizabeth Shue might win an Academy Award someday. You know, if she stays with it long enough. So there are people there of you know who Woody Guthrie's best friend was Cisco Houston, who came from Wilmington, Delaware. Well, Delaware anyway. I'm not sure it was Wilmington, but I heard he was from Delaware. So there are others, not that many, because like I said, it's a small state. I mean, you sat there and said, name some famous Texans, we'd be talking all month.
Right. George, you know, for you, I just looking at the totality of the career and everything that you've done and how many of your songs are such a part of just the American lexicon. Do you feel like that you're, you know, being uncompromised about your style, your sound, and really never wavering from that? How the self-gratification from that, do you think that it outweighs what it may have been had you listened to a certain record label or made this kind of music or gone this direction? I mean, you've really stayed true to yourself. I mean, that's a cliche, but you of all people have done that.
Yeah, let's just something straighten it out on something. I'm no Sir Paul McCartney or Miles Davis or Paul Simon and just sit down and says, I think I'm going to go to Afghanistan and record a fantastic album with all Afghanistan musicians. Ry Cooder went to Cuba, and he did a record, and he used all these fantastic musicians from Cuba, and said, well, you know, George Thorogood only knows only one way to be. Like, if you see one Three Stooges episode, you've seen them all. Okay? So, having said that, I knew where I knew my limitations, I knew my strengths. So it wouldn't matter me just staying true to what he did. This is what I can do. So, you don't ask Woody Allen to make Westerns. Okay? So that's where I ended up. I read an article by Joan Rivers, and when she was getting up there with her an age in her career. And they said, now they're getting up, are you going to be more mellow? She's kind of a caustic act like Don Rickles does, and her act could be, a little rough at times. And they said, are you going to mellow down and be a little different now? And she said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to keep doing what it is that got me here. I'm going to be more of what I did before. In other words, the next time you see George Thorogood play, I'm going to be more obnoxious than the last time you saw him. Okay?
That's all I needed to hear. Definitely in on that. Excited for that on coming up here on March 1st at the Uptown Theater. Last question, George. You, in 2017, released, I guess, a solo album called Party of One. Kind of, obviously, the cliche would be to say, but it's very true, the music industry's changed so much. But how important or how urgent is it for you to consistently release new music? Or would you say that priority has kind of slipped with the way things have kind of gone in the music industry? Where are you at on kind of the idea of new music right now?
Right now, and where I'm at?
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm just happy to be working. I'm happy how our band is still in demand and we can deliver. That's all you can ask when you're doing something. Saying, well, whatever the trend in music is, whatever the big thing going, I have paid little attention to that in the last 25, 30 years. I don't have time for them. So, well, I keep getting phone calls all the time to hire our act. And I say, well, what do you want us to do different? And they say, nothing. Well, we don't want you to go out there and do a number like Lady Gaga. We don't want you to go out there and do something like Jack Johnson, who are great artists in their own right. They said, no, we want you to keep doing George Thorogood, hence the Joan Rivers story or the Dennis Leary story. So whatever they used to say when you make it to the big leagues, it'd say whatever got you here is going to keep you here.
And it certainly has been the case. George, I'll tell you what, on a personal note, I can't thank you enough for joining us here and taking us through this. And we're so excited to have you back here in Kansas City March 1st. You can go to georgethorogood.com to get all the information, all the tour dates coming up, and there are many of them. George, see you out here on the road, man. We'll get you here in Kansas City in just a couple weeks. We are looking forward to it. Thank you again so much, my friend.
Rock and roll never sleeps, it just passes out.
What a treat. What an honor it was to have George Thorogood on the show this week. We've had a lot of shows lately that have had double guests. We've had guys like Robin McCauley, Dean Castronovo, Martin Anderson on the show just of late. So to be able to we want to dedicate this show just to George Thorogood. He's that legendary. He's that great. And we can't wait to have him here in Kansas City on March 1st. Go to georgethorogood.com, get all the information on the dates and all the news and everything coming up in the camp of George Thorogood. Guys, some more big interviews to come. Like I mentioned earlier, we got Kevin Martin, the singer from Candlebox, coming up. We've got Kyle, the singer of the Unlikely Candidates, on the horizon. And do not forget Richie Kotzen, former guitarist from Poison, also, and much more. Everything always in flux at all times. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Always hit us up on the website, musicmaniapodcast.com. That's where you can get all the show reviews. All of our archived podcasts are there. So please hit that up. And of course on social media, just search Music Mania Podcast and you can follow us. Always love to hear the feedback. If you have questions, comments, concerns, drop me an email at musicmaniapodcast@gmail.com. Always enjoy interacting with you guys and always gives us a good direction on who to interview next and what to do next. Guys, thank you so much. We will be back next week right here on the Music Mania Podcast.